Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call to order our first hearing of the evening. This is the application of Michael F. Modestino, the attorney for Magnosa 1983 Family Trust, which trust owns and operates the Milton Marketplace, which is located at 10 Bassett Street in Milton. And this property is located in a residency and business district. In 1982, in a previous case, number 1187, the board granted a variance to create the Milton Marketplace as a two-story shopping center with a second-floor restaurant. And then on May 16, 1991, the board amended the variance in case number 1557 to allow the restaurant to operate from 8 in the morning to 9 in the evening, Monday through Saturday, and from 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 in the evening on Sundays and holidays. The marketplace presently plans to renovate the restaurant premises, but will not be enlarging the restaurant space or the existing seating capacity. The applicant seeks to, or intends, they're not seeking permission from the board, they're seeking to rent the second floor of space to Susan Lombardi, DBA The Plate, and they're requesting an amendment of the existing variance number 1557 to allow the applicant to operate and open the restaurant from 6:30 in the morning, 7 days a week, and holidays. All is set forth in the application on file with the board. My name is John Leonard. I'll be chairman for this particular hearing. With me this evening, to my immediate right, is board member Brian Hurley, and to my immediate left is board member Nick Gray. The rules of the board for this hearing will be as follows. We'll certainly hear from the applicant, then we'll hear from any people present who have questions of the applicant. Why don't you sit down and make yourself comfortable? And then we'll hear from any people who wish to speak or persons who wish to speak in opposition or in support of the application. The meeting is being tape recorded tonight, so that would ask that before anyone speaks, tell us your name and address, speak up nice and clear and loud so we'll have an accurate record of the proceeding if we have to revert to the tape. As evidence for this particular hearing, we certainly have the application, which Mr. Modestino has filed with the board. We do have a transmission from Attorney Modestino dated 11/11/2014, in which he encloses a proposed design of the new restaurant, which is apparently being called The Plate, and information regarding the restaurant's operation, as well as some history of the restaurateur and the successful restaurants that have been operated by the proposed tenant. So we certainly thank Mr. Modestino for those materials. We did receive a letter. I'll summarize the letter. It's dated October 27th, 2014. It's from Allison and Charlie Boyce, who reside at 12 Wood Street in Milton, Massachusetts. I think I said the date, but it's October 27th, 2014. Dear Sir or Madam, we're writing in support of the application of the trust for an amendment to the existing variance allowing the operation of a restaurant located in the second floor of the building. Our family lives 1 block from Milton Marketplace, like most folks in East Milton who are frequent customers of the businesses located there, especially the Fruit Center. The Magnosa family has been and continues to be not only exemplary business people, but great neighbors and good friends. Knowing that Magnosa's plans for their restaurant will only add to the vibrant nature of their outstanding business, and we wholeheartedly recommend approval of their application. Thank you for your kind consideration. So we thank Mr. and Mrs. Boyce for their kind letter in support of the hearing. I think that's the only communication we've received in support. We have no letters or comments presently in opposition to the application. So the applicant is being represented at the meeting by Attorney Michael F. Modestino of Braintree, Massachusetts, who's appeared frequently before the board on marketplace matters. So welcome back to the Board of Appeals, Mr. Modestino. We're delighted to hear from you.
Yeah, Michael Modestino, representing the Magnosa 1983 Family Trust. The trustees currently being Mark Magnosa and Michael Magnosa. Vincent D. Magnosa passed away in March of 2014. The Marketplace Cafe had been in operation for some time, and it actually closed on September 21st The family felt that they couldn't run the business any further, and they have negotiated with Suzanne Lombardi, who's seated next to me on the right, who's a successful restaurant owner in Milton now. She owns a restaurant called The Plate on Central Ave. And as indicated by the materials that have been submitted, she would like to open the restaurant at 6:30 in the morning. The current permit allows the restaurant to be open at 8 a.m. in the morning. And the reason for that change is that she feels to operate the restaurant and to compete in the breakfast market out there, that she would need to open the restaurant that early to get patrons to come there, particularly people on their way to work. Currently, there is no operation going on there. Her plan would be to move in as soon as practicable. She has been successful in the past. The vision that she has is to operate a restaurant with a seating capacity of 35 to 42 people. I think she's given some indication in the documents that I've submitted about the seating arrangements. Currently, the prior restaurant had 48 seats, so we're actually going to be lessening the seats that are in there. The employees of the restaurant will adhere to the standard parking areas that are designated to the rear of the store so that there'd be more space allowable for the customers. The elevator and stair access will be the same. There's an elevator in the building, there's stair access going up to the second floor. And, you know, from a business standpoint, it just makes sense that she be allowed to do this. She wants to make it a successful operation, and I think it would be an asset to the town. And if you need Ms. Lombardi to answer any questions, she's here to do that. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Lombardi, welcome back, I think, to the Board of Appeals. Weren't you here on some type of a special permit?
Almost 3 years ago, when we opened up at Central Avenue, we were changing the usage, so I was here, so thank you. And
We're delighted to hear from you.
yeah, happy to be back again. I mean, I'm happy to answer questions. One of the things that we're going to add to our concept over at Milton Marketplace, the Plate at the Milton Marketplace, is a full-service coffee bar. We'll have some juicing that'll happen there. We hope to attract early morning commuters, a lot of the women from Fitness Unlimited Gym, and just, you know, busy commuters on their way to work. We are excited about the opportunity there. We hope to, you know, be long-term tenants, and like Mr. Monastino said, really add a lot to that area of town and that community. And it's been really exciting having an existing business in operation the other side of town, because we are going into this project with a lot of excitement and support from our current customers. So it's fantastic, and we're excited, and the Magnoses have been great to work with, and I think they feel the same about us. So it's a win-win, as they say, I think.
Great. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions. Mr. Hurley, do you have any questions of Mr. Modestino or Ms. Lombardi?
Either one. Do the number of seats remain the same from?
They're actually going down a little bit. We are taking part of the dining room space, if you look at the floor plan that was submitted, to allow for a full-service coffee, what we're calling a coffee drink bar.
Do you anticipate that the early traffic, 6:30 to 8 in the morning, will be people who come in, park, come upstairs, get their stuff, and then hit the road?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's kind of a grab-and-go type business?
It's a grab and go. The full kitchen, our idea is, we're calling it a commuter breakfast. So coffee drink, a fresh juice, we'll have some pastries, we'll have some of our breakfast sandwiches available for a grab and go. We make our own granola, so we do a yogurt granola type, pre-made, fresh that morning, ready to grab and go. The real kitchen will open at 8 when people, that's really geared towards people who want to sit, maybe meet a friend, have a full breakfast. So that 6:30 opening will really satisfy what we think are, you know, women from the gym coming from a workout, and commuters hopping on the road to their day.
So you don't see it increasing traffic? It's really going to be people, existing traffic that just, instead of driving by, they stop in, hopefully. And
That's the plan, yes, hopefully. Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Gray?
This is probably an obvious question, but just to make sure that the people who are coming into park will be able to park in the fruit center, in the Milton Marketplace parking lot, is that
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rather than just the town spaces? they'll
No,
be able to-
in the Milton Marketplace parking area, the store doesn't open until 10 in the morning.
Right, so there won't, nothing else, I think, is, or not much else is open in that, maybe the CVS. I guess, CVS. but
CVS says earlier.
When I've been over, there have been, at that time of day, there have been plenty of spaces. It's not as if it would have a detrimental effect opening an hour and a half earlier on the parking in East Milton, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be a
Seems
minimal
reasonable.
impact.
Yeah, that's all.
I just have one question, Mr. Modestino. Is the only change in the existing variance going to be to open at 6:30 in the morning rather than at 9 in the morning?
That is correct.
But the other hours are going to stay the same, so that if Ms. Lombardi was going to run a dinner service, which you presently don't have, but you're going to do it
Correct.
at some point in time, I assume, staying open till 9 at night is still a permitted use.
Yes,
So we'll keep the hours the same, but just open at 6:30 rather than 9 o'clock.
yeah, that is correct. You know, she doesn't have a plan right now to operate a dinner there, but at some point she might, and we'd like to keep that 9 o'clock time.
Okay, that's great. Let me see if there are any comments. Is there anyone present this evening who either has a question for Mr. Modestino or Ms. Lombardi, or who otherwise wishes to speak in support of this application for an amendment to the variance? Okay, the record is there's no such person present. Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition to this application for an amendment to the variance? Oh, thundering silence, Mr. Modestino.
It's always good.
That is always good. Do you have any follow-up remarks that you want to make?
No, the only thing I would add is that Michael McNose had planned on being here this evening. He lives in Milton, but he had a family situation he had to deal with, and he apologizes for not being here.
Well, he certainly, he doesn't have to apologize, and Mr. Mignosa is a steady fixture at most events before the board dealing with this particular establishment, which is in kind of a unique location and was created
Yes.
uniquely. So
Very unique.
virtually any change that's made at the marketplace is coming before us for some type of a special permit or amendment. So we understand and give Mr. McNoser our best.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll close the evidentiary portion of this hearing, and it's our obligation under the open meeting law to discuss this application in open meeting and to decide it. We intend to do that here and now. Mr. Hurley, do you want to be heard?
just briefly, it seems to me to be a reasonable request, has minimal impact on the neighborhood, and the operation, traffic, parking, et cetera. So I'd be in favor of granting the requested relief.
Okay, Mr. Gray?
I second Mr. Hurley's comments, actually. That's, I think it's reasonable and not a problem to open up a little earlier.
Okay. Well, my view of this is that I support this application as well. I think that if you look at the history of the Milton Marketplace, it's really been one of the driving forces for the improvement and rehabilitation of East Milton Square. It's a dynamic place, it's well-run, it sells high-quality product, and they've been most accommodating to neighbors and to the board whenever need has happened. So I think they've been a driving force. This is I think, just like Ms. Lombardi said, this is a typical win-win situation. This is an exciting concept for the restaurant. Ms. Lombardi's a skilled restaurateur. This is a fabulous addition to the marketplace and to the people surrounding the marketplace in Milton, East Milton in general. So I think this is going to be a terrific addition. I think it's going to be significant in advancing Milton's renovation. We've got, now we have 2 restaurants down there. We have a 3rd restaurant that I think has an application pending. I don't know whether it was allowed or heard yet. because I'm not sitting on that particular application. And then now we have this particular application, so I think this is an exciting trend for the town of Milton. I'm glad we can assist in a very small way in making this happen. So all those in favor of amending the variance 1557 to allow this restaurant to open at 6:30 in the morning rather than 9 o'clock in the morning, please say aye.
Aye.
So congratulations
you.
on your amendment to the variance. I assume you would like your amendment sooner rather than later, so you can tie up any loose ends on the lease, and
I think so, if possible.
so you can get into operation, okay. I'll do my very best to get this out in the next 4 or 5 days, if that's
Fine.
good. It may take a few extra days to get it circulated, because it has to be signed by all of the members. Okay?
We understand. Thank
So,
you very much.
thank
for
you for your
time.
Thank you
excellent
very much, I
presentation.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I
Thank
forgot
you.
to mention that I actually live 8 minutes from there, too, so I get to walk to work now, so.
Well, that's wonderful. Good luck. It sounds
Thank
like
you.
an exciting venture.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
again. Thank you, Mary.
And don't forget cookies.
And the recipe is for sale, if you'd like it. Just have to see Mrs. Fitzgerald after the hearing.
You've got all that.
What's that? Oh, I bet.
She bring her? Oh, jeez.
Okay, I'll write this one.
Okay, that's fine.
John, you got that one?
Yeah. Do you want to look at
No, I'm
them? Okay. We all set? Okay, we're going to call to order our second application of the evening. This is on the application of Thomas and Mary Curran. The application is dated September 15th, 2014. It's on file with the board, and they're seeking a variance from the terms of Section 61 and 61 of the Milton zoning bylaw. The applicants are seeking to build an 8-by-12 one-story addition to the right rear of their existing single-family residence, which is located at 24 Sheridan Drive in Milton. The property is located in the Residence C district. The proposed addition is to be set back 9.5 feet from the left side property line rather than the 10 feet that's required by Section 61 of the bylaw, and 21.3 feet from the rear property line rather than the 27.75 feet required by Section 61 of the bylaw. My name is John Leonard. I'll be acting as chairman for this particular meeting. With me this evening, to my immediate left, is Board Member Nicholas Gray. To my immediate right is Board Member Brian Hurley. The rules of the board are going to be such: we'll hear from the applicant, we'll hear from people who have questions of the applicant, we'll hear from anyone present who wants to speak in support of this application, or anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to the application. We're tape recording the proceedings as we did the first hearing, so that would ask that before people speak, tell us your name and address, speak up nice and clear and loud, so we'll have an accurate record of the proceeding. As part of the record for the proceeding, we'll have the application, which is dated September, it looks like it's 15th, 2014. We have the denial letter by Building Commissioner Joseph Prondak that's dated August 29th, 2014. We have some plan of the proposed addition. It looks like a computer-generated plan. We also have a plot plan of the subject property, prepared by Neponset Valley Survey Associates. It's dated June 6, 2014. and it shows the existing property, the house on the property, the existing garage, and the proposed addition. So we thank the applicants for those documents. Who's going to be making the presentation on behalf of
I
the...
will. My name's Thomas E. Curran.
Great. Good. Welcome to the board, Mr. Curran. Whom do you have with you there?
This is my wife, Mary. Go ahead.
I'm Mary Curran.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Mr. Curran, welcome to the Board of Appeals. We're delighted to hear from you.
Thank you very much. We would like to build it's a 8-by-12 story addition on the right rear of our residence, as you said, of the existing single-family where we have right now. So it's in the right rear. It's a very small room that we're adding on to. The current existing addition is an odd-shaped, when you go out there out back, it's an odd-shaped addition. And,
The plot, the land.
yeah, the plot and the land itself is odd-shaped, and that's sort of the hardship here with us. If we,
Why don't you describe the odd shape of the lot for the benefit of the people who are here and the
Okay, you
people
can-
who may be watching this on TV?
yeah, you can try.
If, from the front of the house, it looks as though it's a nice square lot, but as it comes around, from when you're looking at the front of the house to the left, it turns into more of an angle.
It's like a pie-shaped lot.
More like a
Yes.
pie shape,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So why don't you tell us what's the purpose of the proposed addition?
Well, the purpose of this is to make it a more functional room for us, and also to make it look, from the outside of the structure, to make it look like it belongs there. Currently, the room is short, as I call it, just a short outside room, and if it's extended the 8 feet, then it's going to look like it always was there.
Okay. And what are you going to use the one-story addition for?
It's going to be a family room.
Okay. Is it extending the family room,
That's
or is
correct.
it just going to be its independent family room?
Well, it's going to be an independent family room, but it's extending the one now.
Okay, okay, great. Okay, and the addition, when it's completed, is it going to be the same type of exterior facade as the existing residence?
Yes, it is. Mike Scully is doing the addition, so.
Okay, and it's going to be the same color scheme and all of that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Did you have an opportunity to speak with any of your neighbors regarding your
I
application?
did, I have a form here with several signatures on it.
Oh, great, a petition.
Petition.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, the Currans have given us a petition. It's to the Board of Appeals, and the petition reads, "We are in support of the Currans' addition to their home at 24 Sheridan Drive and have no opposition to the variance." And it's signed by Paul, is it Iovino, who is at 16 Sheridan Drive, and he would be one of the neighbors most affected by the
Yes.
variance. And it's signed by Stephen Grandy. He's at 25 Woodchester Street, and his property is to the rear of your property, and he would be the other neighbor who's most affected by the variance. We have the signature of Allison and Robert Doak at 30 Sheridan Drive, Patricia Chisholm at 11 Sheridan Drive, Mary Lou Rawson at 15 Sheridan Drive, and Patricia and Mark Sullivan at 21 Sheridan Drive. And we also have Donna and Kevin Murren, whomever he may be, at 37 Sheridan Drive.
I'm not sure I should have had him sign it.
Oh, I think that's a wonderful signature. Chief Murren is always one of our heroes, so.
Well, I'm a retired trooper, so he's been a friend of mine for many,
Ah,
many years.
is that a state police trooper?
Yes.
Wonderful. How many years did you serve?
27.
That's terrific. And where was your base of operation?
Well, it was all over the state. I served as a detective out of the Norfolk County DA's office for years.
Oh, really?
So I was everywhere, yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. My brother-in-law used to work at the Norfolk DA's office
did.
for many, many years. He's
Good.
recently retired as well. So, congratulations on your career. What are you doing now?
I'm teaching at Quincy College. One of my students is here, by the way, a great guy, Dan Lane.
Okay.
I'm teaching there on,
See, he's not looking for a variance, is he?
I don't know,
No, not,
but he's a great guy. Give him whatever he's looking for.
okay, well, that's great. You're teaching criminal procedure, or?
I am, yeah, right now at Quincy College, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's really wonderful. My best man at my wedding was an FBI agent who taught criminal procedure at the State Police Academy and other things. John Michael Callahan.
Oh, yes, oh,
You know
yeah.
Mike?
Oh, yeah, I remember him, yes,
His dad was an FBI agent as well. He went back to the J. Edgar Hoover days.
yes,
So,
yeah.
Michael is likewise presently retired, but he's doing some teaching as well, so
Oh, that's
that's
great.
always a good thing. Let me see if, do you have anything else you'd like to add in support of your application?
Not really. I think we've said it
No,
all.
Okay.
we love this neighborhood. We have absolutely no plans on leaving, and that, just getting those signatures was just from a little get-together we did impromptu the other night, and so he said, I should just bring this over and have everybody sign.
Well, it's really a great idea because it's the way highly competent lawyers like Mr. Corcoran, who just left the room,
Yeah,
they always get neighbors' assents and petitions, and it makes the life of the board a little bit easier. So, and I know it's a pain in the neck to get the signatures, but thank you very much for
You're
doing
welcome.
that. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions regarding the application. Mr. Gray?
Not really, more of an observation, which is the main part of the house looks from the plan to be even closer to the lot line than your proposed addition.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's correct.
So this is, the existing house on the Uvino side is only 6.1 feet, but in your addition would encroach, would be 9.5, more than that, rather,
That's correct.
9.5. So it's still farther away, right? And
That's correct.
I don't have any other questions. It seems fairly straightforward.
Okay. Mr. Brian Hurley, please.
I don't have any questions. I would observe, Nick, that,
Yeah.
once again, I'm gonna say this, and no one believes me, but I don't think a variance was required for this application, particularly under recent appeals court cases that have interpreted 48 Section 6 in the way that I think it has always been interpreted. But in any event, we're here. I think it's a great addition. I have no
Well,
problems.
we don't want people in
With granting a
in
variance.
TV land to be
Be in court.
all confused. What's the nature of the opinions that have just come down that said the
That-
variance
well,
is not necessary?
You have two situations here. You have the sideline, which does not increase the nonconformity, so I think all you need is a Section 6 finding for that. There's recent cases that say that even if you create a new nonconformity, which I think you have here because it's closer to the rear line than the existing structure is, there's recent case law that suggests that you don't need a variance even in that circumstance. So, anyway, we're here, and I'm happy to vote in favor of this.
Well, well, we haven't come to voting yet, but we will. That's a wonderful example of why people in Boston hire Mr. Hurley and pay him vast sums of money for his opinions.
I have nothing else to say. No, I'm fine.
Well, did you want to speak
No,
regarding the application?
I did.
You did?
I
Thank
did.
you.
I asked my question. I'm
And I
good.
was just subsumed in Mr. Hurley's analysis of
Erudite
Section 6
analysis.
findings. I'll have to go and read those cases tomorrow, but I know they exist. And Mr. Hurley has been making these Section 6 arguments for the last 2 or 3 years,
Unsuccessful.
unsuccessful, at least to the building inspector's view. I think this application was very well presented. I think has great merit. It does square off the house. The lot is pie-shaped. The back portion of the house without this addition is very small and very narrow. And this completes the house and makes it much more usable. You've gotten, through due diligence and hard work, gotten the assent of all of the neighbors. And under those circumstances, while I think this lot may technically qualify for a variance because of its shape, and will so find that, the board is generally somewhat forgiving on this type of variance where all of the neighbors agree and find this to be something that's tasteful and doesn't adversely affect their interests. We don't have a larger map. if you had a fancy lawyer here, he probably would have gotten a map that would show the properties that are surrounding your property, maybe 4 or 5 times around, and you'd probably find 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 more pie-shaped lots, and we probably would have granted variances to those other people at some point in time if a historical search was done. So, long-winded way of saying, I intend to vote for this variance, and so all those in favor of granting the present application? I'm sorry.
Did you want to see if anyone else wants to speak?
Oh, that's always a good thing. I thought I did.
The train was leaving the station.
It was leaving the station. That's not a
I
good
think it's
thing.
probably a good idea to.
But there's really, I think that happens because we thought your friend is sitting back there, and he's the only other people back here. Is there anybody who wants to speak in support of this application? And Mary, thank you for catching that. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to the application? So just as we thought, there's nobody else who's interested in this application. So all those in favor of granting the Curran's application for variance?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations on your variance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Let
very
me just
much.
ask you one question,
Sure.
or maybe 2 questions. Number one, when do you intend to do the construction?
I think he was talking about
Just
December.
that next month.
Okay, so you're kind of looking to have this turned around within some reasonable period of time?
Yes, please, yes.
Because you understand that it's going to take us a week to 10 days, basically, to get the decision written, and it's going to be signed up, so it may be 2 weeks before the decision is
I'll
signed.
have the decision written by Monday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you'll also put a paragraph in
man.
there,
About how
that
you
this is
didn't
a
need it.
section
I
6
will
finding. and-
I will not put
You will
that
not
in
do
there.
that, okay. And you should be aware that if we file this with the town clerk, Ms. Galvin, even though nobody's opposed your application for variance, you can't pull your building permit for 20 days. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, I
Okay,
was
because
aware.
then the variance becomes final. But you can have your builder speak to Mr. Prondak, because sometimes some interior work can be done
I see.
without the variance being required. So some prep work may be able to be done, and whatever Mr. Prondak says you can do prior to the 20-day period, you do it at your own risk, you understand
Right.
that.
Right.
But that's something you may want to think of. Also, remember, you've got to record your variance with the Registry of Deeds. And Mary or Joe Prondak can tell you, or your builder may do this for you. You want to get a certified copy of the variance and file it with the Registry of Deeds, because if you don't, your variance will lapse. And people 5 years from now will have questions about the title to your property, and you want to be sure that you lock that in, okay? So congratulations on your addition. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry?
It's not my pocketbook.
I vowed I wasn't going to say anything noteworthy on TV tonight, but once again,
Well, I thought you were
let
airing it.
myself down.
No, but I'd be interested. You know the name of that presentation?
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It was the subject of conversation at the Abstract Club meeting, which I remember in good standing.
In good standing. You made,
Right.
you're not
There's
an
only
office
100, there's
sign.
only 100 members that are allowed, so you only get in when people die.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, I had to wait for some. Because by their standards, I'm young.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Wow, it's a late turnout for this one.
This is good. I actually had my eyes examined this afternoon, and the ophthalmologist put on these
Yeah.
big drops in my eyes.
It hasn't affected you so far.
No, but I'm seeing halos around everybody.
Did you
I
get
think.
dilated?
Yes,
Oh,
I did.
I just had.
I thought
that.
it'd be over it by now, but I'm not.
It takes a few hours
I
sometimes.
think I'm looking at the saints.
It's
Something's happening, something magical is happening.
a halo.
That happens at all the 40B hearings, so it's magical.
Is that why that happened?
Things going on. Okay.
Okay. Are we all set for our third hearing, Ms. Fitzgerald? Okay, we're going to call to order our third hearing of the evening. This is the application of Greg Carbone or Carboni? Carbone. Okay, Carbone. And you're not Greg Carbone?
No, I'm
No, okay, that's good. Dated September 24th, 2014, on file with the board, seeking permission to build a 675 square foot addition to the rear of the existing single-family residence at 83 Gulliver Street in Milton, which is located in a residential C district. The addition is 5.7 feet above the average grade when Section 5A1 of the zoning bylaw requires that new buildings and portions of new buildings be limited to 2.5 stories in any residential district. All is set forth in the application. My name is John Leonard. I'll be acting as chairman for this particular meeting. With me this evening is Board Member Brian Hurley, as well as, to my immediate left, Board Member Nicholas Gray. The rules of the board are just as they were at the first two hearings. We'll hear from the applicant or the attorney for the applicant. We'll hear from people present, if any, who wish to speak in support of the application or ask questions of Mr. Corcoran. And likewise, we'll hear from any person present who wishes to speak in opposition to this application. In addition to the application, we have the application that was filed. No, it's okay. We have a denial letter by Mr. Prondak, a building inspector, dated 9/17/2014. And we have a series of plans, well, including, looks like a plot plan, that's prepared by Neponset Valley Survey. It's dated June 26, 2014, showing the subject property and the existing residence and the proposed improvement. And we have a set of plans for zoning review purposes. They're dated May 27, 2014, by Spalding Tugas Architects. And regretfully, their print is so small I can't read where they're from, but maybe Mr. Hurley can do that for me.
Boston.
Boston, thank you. And we note that the applicant is represented right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is represented this evening by attorney Ned Corcoran or Edward J. Corcoran of Quincy, Massachusetts. So welcome back to the Board of Appeals, Mr. Corcoran.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Great to be here. Members of the board, I'm here with Denise Carbone. Her husband, Greg, who's the other applicant, is away on business and unfortunately couldn't attend tonight, but...
Good, welcome to the Board of Appeals.
Thank you.
This is, the premises is at 83 Gulliver Street in Milton. It is one of those neighborhoods that was built substantially before the enactment of zoning. Although this house was built approximately 1940, according to town records, it's an older subdivision. Lots are smaller than standard. This is a lot, as you can see from the plot plan, that is 6,739 square feet, which is smaller than would normally be allowed under current zoning. And the first floor, because of the topographical change in the property, is the average grade of the first floor is above 4 feet. So to do any type of an addition with a 2.5-story dwelling over an unfinished basement, the unfinished basement unfortunately is counted as a story for purposes of the town's bylaw. I do have some photographs that I downloaded from the web to share. There's 2 elevations for the board and one from there. The front depicts the house from the front, Gulliver Street, fairly standard looking, and the second is from the side, and you can see the side, from the side street, you can see how the rear of the house is substantially above the grade behind, so it creates the average grade. The only relief being requested is relief from the provision dealing with story, and the purpose is to build an addition off the back that would be similar to the house on the left in the first page. You can see how there would appear to be an addition off the back of that house. It's almost a full-size addition off the rear, and it would be similar in this case. That would take down a one-story structure off the rear and the deck, and then build back into the rear yard. I would point out for the board's edification, although it's not yet enacted, town meeting did vote to change the provisions of the bylaw so that if a dwelling is pre-1950 and it has the issue of the first floor elevation at 4 feet, they changed the calculation in the bylaw to 6 feet. So to deal with many of these types of homes that pre-exist, substantially pre-exist zoning, and allows the type of reinvestment in a home that the Carbones are talking about doing here. They have 4 young children, aged 10, twins who are 6, and a younger one of 4. And as Denise has said to me, the goal here is to have room to put a dishwasher in the kitchen and room for this family to grow. And they don't want to leave this neighborhood. It is a very tight, like many neighborhoods in Milton, very tight neighborhoods with close relationships. And the notion of having to move to find a larger home is difficult to think of, and staying within either the town, within the same school district, for the elementary school, and proximate to friends is difficult. So with all of that said, we're asking the board's relief from the petition portion of the variance that deals with the issue of story. The Carbones have shared plans with neighbors. There's genuine support among the neighborhood. There's no one here either in support or in opposition, but they are, that we know of, the neighborhood is fully supportive and anxious for the Carbones to remain in the neighborhood as part of the fabric of the neighborhood. So with that, I'd open it up to questions and
Mr. Corcoran, let me ask you, do you know why the Attorney General hasn't endorsed or approved of the bylaw change by town meeting?
My experience with this and other bylaw changes is that the Attorney General has 90 days from the date when it hits her desk, and they often take the full 90 days. That was so in 2 recent zoning changes that I was involved in, and I don't know whether it's left Town Hall at this point, because I also, same town meeting, represented the owners of the St. Pius Rectory property, and who secured a zoning change for that property, and I know that bylaw hasn't been submitted yet. I think it's on its way, but there's a process that the clerk goes through, and then, so it was just voted 3 weeks ago. I would assume that February is when the bylaw would become in effect.
Did your historical search of the Gulliver Street neighborhood, which you normally prepare for as part of these hearings, did it reflect that the Board of Appeals has granted innumerable variances on Gulliver Street and surrounding streets?
I would say in this case that I did not do that same level of diligence. I was retained after the application was filed, and so did not have the time to prepare as I might normally do. But I think as I've driven the neighborhood, there are other houses that are similarly situated, and it would appear that some type of relief may have been granted in the past.
I can think of at least 3 or 4 applications that I've sat on in this, right on Gulliver Street, where the houses, it's a beautiful neighborhood, and as they say, it's a very family neighborhood. But anytime you sneeze, you need a special permit or a variance, and the houses are small, and so the board has granted, I'm going to say 4 or 5 that I know of, and I think a detailed search would find many more variances that, and the reasons are just as said by Mr. Corcoran. You have your family, you're living there, you have the kids are in school, and they have all their friends, and they play in the neighborhood, and they don't want to move to Randolph or Holliston or something like that. So that's always an interesting fact. Do you have any questions, Mr. Ray?
Just one, will the construction, if assuming we grant the variance, will it be in substantial compliance with the materials you've submitted in terms of the design? Or this is pretty much set for the way you think you want it? Basically,
Yes.
more or less?
Yes, and Cheryl Tagayas is the architect. She lives in Milton, and she spent time with the Carbones, came up with a couple of different schemes for them to consider, and they settled on the one that's been presented in front of you.
Okay, Mr. Hurley, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, let me see if Mr. Corcoran's, I was going to say prognostication, but I'll say guess is correct. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak in support of this application, or who has any questions of the applicant or Mr. Corcoran? And the record indicates there's no such person present. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to this application for variance? And Mr. Corcoran is correct. There's no such person present. So do you have anything further to add on this application, Mr. Corcoran?
No, I don't. Thank you for your time.
Okay, great. So we'll close the evidence portion of the hearing and consider this application in open session. So, Mr. Gray, do you want to be heard?
This is a type of variance that we've granted routinely in the past in this type of situation. The neighborhood seems to be in support, at least by Mr. Corcoran's statements, and it looks like it will fit very nicely into the rest of the neighborhood. I would be intend to support the application.
Mr. Brian Hurley.
I agree with Nick, with what he had to say.
Yeah, well, I agree with both Brian and Nick. It's well presented, as always. You're young people with a growing family, and these are tight quarters to live in, and so I think this will be a welcome addition to your home, and will benefit you, your husband, and your family. So I'm very pleased to support this application for variance. So all those in favor of this application for variance? Aye.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Corcoran?
No, the only thing I was going to say is that I had just asked them how quickly they wanted to get started, and they suggested spring. So I think in terms of timing of a decision, it's less pressure on this one than perhaps on some others to come before you.
I think that's very well put, and so we'll try to get this out in a workmanlike fashion so that when the spring arrives, you'll have your building permit, and you can rely on Mr. Corcoran to deal with recording of your variance and all of the technical legal stuff that goes along with this. So
Okay, great.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
And with that, we will be adjourned.